right. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, as the case may be. My name is Darren Lapomi. I'm a professor and department chair of chemical engineering at U of R. And prior to my role here, I was at UC San Diego for 12 years, and hence I came to know Steve, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. But thanks everyone for joining us for Voices of XR, a Mary Ann Mavernack Studio X speaker series. The series is made possible by Kathy McMorran Murray and the National Science Foundation as part of the Interdisciplinary Graduate Training in Science, Technology, and Applications of Augmented and Virtual Reality at the University of Rochester. And it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Steve McCloskey of Nanome, the founder and CEO of Nanome. I met Steve in 2013 when he was an undergraduate in my class, Biochemical Principles of Nanoengineering. And Steve has been a really impressive person to get to know over the last 12 years. He's a leader and technology enthusiast and has really developed Nanome into a super useful tool for chemists, engineers, material scientists, pharmaceutical scientists, medicinal chemists in visualizing molecules in virtual reality. And he'll tell you all about his technology in the coming hour. But just as somebody who has used an early version of the tool, I can say that it's a really spectacular experience. One of the reasons that a scientist gets into computation and molecular dynamic simulations is because we don't have a microscope small enough to see molecules. But so what MD is in on a 2D screen, Nanome can take into VR so that it's possible to look and peer inside the caverns of molecules and particularly proteins and other types of nanostructured materials. So I'm really excited for you to see Steve's talk. And just a bit of housekeeping, please feel free to post your questions in the chat, and we'll have a Q&A at the end. And lastly, this session is being recorded and will be available to you later on the Studio X website, along with an archive of our past talks. So with that, I would like to hand it over to Steve, and let's give him a warm virtual welcome.
Fantastic. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a long time since UC San Diego days, but yeah, miss it down here. But hey, here's my little New York mug to represent. East Coast is great too. I do a lot of travel. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start my screen share here. Let me know if that looks good on your side. All good? Okay, perfect. So yeah, like Darren said, it was a great introduction. I'm Steve McCloskey, CEO and founder of Nanome. Really spun this out of UC San Diego over about 10 years ago, I'd say, at this point. But yeah, that time in my life was actually really transformative. Yeah, I had actually started at the university as a biochemistry major under the chemistry department. Yeah, was really into things like wanting to cure cancer, after seeing family members go through their various forms. So that was a big interest of mine of like how do we make better medicine? But at the same time, I'd converted my car to run off vegetable oil in high school and was really into renewables. And when I found that we had the world's first nanoengineering department and that it was kind of a combination of things like curing cancer as well as working on renewable energy and all sorts of other fun stuff, I was like, sign me up. So immediately switched my first quarter of my freshman year when I learned of the nanoengineering department. And that was great because yeah, it really opened my eyes to the world of the nanoscale and everything down there. I got to work with Professor Ken Vecchio, the founding department chair of the nanoengineering department. I got hands-on with electron microscopes, X-ray diffraction, all sorts of characterization techniques that let you more or less see the nanoscale, understand what's going on at the nanoscale. And during that time, I also got really into computational programs. There were a few professors that were more focused on molecular dynamics simulations, and other more traditional approaches. And we even used like Fortran. I don't know if they're still teaching Fortran, but a very old language, very, very low level. It's literally formula translation. And I thought that it was kind of cool. You could, type these command line codes and you make things, happen with molecules, and then you could look at them. And that really appealed to me. But going through the interfaces, I thought things were kind of lacking. I'd grown up playing video games and kind of knew what a good three-dimensional user interface should be like, or at least I thought I knew. And I was really sad to see that there was a lot of just obsolete stuff. These things haven't improved too much since the 90s. The 90s, 2000s, right? It's been these green molecules and 2D screens, maybe some 3D glasses. But I was thinking like, hey, like nanoengineering is the future. We need the nanoengineering interface, the ultimate interface to be able to get hands-on with molecules and tinker around and engineer. So that was really where I got started. And visualization is critically important in pretty much everything that scientists do. But did you all know that the microscope was originally just a toy for rich people? Yes, that's right. They invented the microscope, kind of like the inverse of a telescope, which had already been used for astronomy and all sorts of things at the time. But nobody really knew what to do with it. They looked at fun things in their home, and eventually a person looked at cork and understood that things are made up of tinier things. And then lo and behold, now we have modern science and technology from people that were just looking at what's going on at smaller scales. So 5 centuries later, we have virtual reality. We have this really great technology that's been productized, consumerized. A lot of it's being used for gaming, but everything's driven the cost down where you can now have a headset for just a few $100 that is extremely high quality and allows you to go in there. So, so that also appealed to me. Like, how do we put these things together? I started working with various faculty at UC San Diego. This is a picture of the Cal IT 2 facility where they have a cave, collaborative augmented virtual environment, pretty much a room with projectors everywhere where you could go in and wear 3D glasses and kind of get inside things like proteins. So people have been doing this for a while, stereo glasses, cave systems, even very early head-mounted displays. Sorry for the pixelation, but this is a image of me from 1997 when I tried virtual reality for the first time. And that kind of stuck with me. Really my whole life, I was like, huh, what is this thing? So in 2014, when I was looking at the Oculus Kickstarter, I was like, okay, maybe this is the thing. Maybe it's like the 3D interface that'll make it all work. So I got a team together. We started working in this art studio just really down the hall from Darren's lab, which was kind of a cool like Bauhaus type movement where they were trying to get like artists and scientists and engineers like all together. But there were these underutilized spaces. So I really just worked with the art department to try to, requisition a space where we could start, making molecules more accessible to everyone and allow people to get hands-on. Everyone got the department chair at the time pretty interested in this. This is Joe Wang, who does a lot of like nano machines and things like that. And yeah, of course, like you put another nano engineering person in the headset, like, yeah, I want to tinker with my atoms and molecules and what quantum dots, where like you could grow and shrink them and see the wavelengths change colors as the size change. So yeah, a lot of cool ideas at the time. But I'd say when we moved over to a different part of campus in Cal IT 2, we started a collaboration with a lot more scientists that were in biotech and pharmaceutical drug discovery. And I think that that was where the critical need was. A lot of these people have a very complex visualization that they need to do of proteins or other molecules, and sometimes a 2D screen really just isn't enough. So, to kind of take a step back, we all use computers, we all kind of know the laptop, desktop environment, and we definitely know touchscreens and smartphones and iPads. That's pretty much been the most popular interface. But the future is these virtual reality type displays. So we've been, really selling this vision of the future for a decade. And there's early adopters, and then there's like late adopters and laggards. Like, there's different levels of people that kind of catch up and understand it. But we've been really happy to see that there's been many people that have been literally waiting for decades for this future technology to finally emerge and for it to happen. There's actually a lot of people that kind of see this future that we see. And this is a scene from Tony Stark, Iron Man here, where you could see he's got the periodic table and he's like doing 3D interactions and he's asking Jarvis to like come up with new ideas and getting the 3D information in real time while talking to it. So it's conversational. You talk with Jarvis, you ask it to pull up data. It's intuitive. You kind of just see something and you grab it and you know what to do. And it's collaborative. You could work with multiple people. So we all kind of know that there's this future sci-fi tech thing that like this is what it looks like more or less. Well, the technology for all that's here today. You got conversational AIs that are ubiquitous. Everyone knows ChatGPT. LLMs are just the thing. This wasn't the case a few years ago. But now the technology's here. So you can build Jarvis. It's intuitive. We have, again, head-mounted displays that have really unlocked a lot of development in terms of what you can make as a software developer. Different, interaction methods. Now they have eye tracking, hand recognition, and hand tracking, gesture recognition. So there's a lot of really awesome things that are happening on the hardware end that keep getting better. And of course, I was really disappointed to see that a lot of the traditional 2D softwares don't even have like native networking, like a MMO RPG video game or anything like that. It's all single user. So, you could have networking built into your application, whether it's, 2D users, VR users, people need to work with each other. And, the Zoom screen share is all right, but it's not very interactive. And of course, there's some latency issues. So we're building like the real version of all this. How do we make this science fiction type of thing real, and how do we help people make real medicine, real technology improvements, and understand real data? So you could see that this is a protein structure here. This is actually shot with the Apple Vision Pro. You can see Edgardo's hologram like avatar there, one of my co-founders. And so this is pretty much what we set out to do 10 years ago. And, everything's been really validating and catching up. The headsets went from huge, beefy desktop machine to just, portable, standalone, all-in-one type devices. Computational tools have gotten much better for backend simulations, many more open source tools that we can connect with. So we're really putting this all together into a thing that people use and get value out of. So to break it down in each step, so we do have our own AI agent now, our own version of Jarvis. We've had Nanome.ai domain for about 8 years, and we had some very early like voice assistants, like chain A, color it red, really really simple macros. But now it's very complex. You could link in. We have hundreds of tools that are already set up, and you just ask it things in normal language. Could you calculate the chemical properties of this Tylenol? And it goes ahead and does that for you, and you can see the results. Of course, you can do more complicated calculations as well, but that's just a simple example where, based on your query, it triggers RDK, and then it gives you the results from the tool. So instead of hallucinating an answer, like just asking a baseline foundational model, it'll actually figure out which tools to use and retrieve the answers from using those tools and give you that as a result. So you don't want it to just hallucinate and make things up, right? So very, very auditable. And of course, I don't need to go deeper in the XR. You grab, rotate, move it around. It's how we interact with the 3D world. It's how we all understand how to use things. And of course, this is collaborative. So to kind of dive into it, so Mara is available today. It's kind of in an early access state where you could go to the mara.nanome.ai website. You could start asking it questions. Can you download this protein? Find me some similar proteins, align them for me. Okay, and then you want to do a comparison. Well, the comparison, there's actually this little open an XR button. And so when you have some complex three-dimensional data, you just hit that open an XR button, and then everything that you were getting set up on the web with all your AI and computational tools instantly goes to the headset. And that's really important for just having streamlined workflows for people like medicinal chemists that don't want to, waste a bunch of time getting all the VR set up and all this. So there's kind of multiple levels that we need to be improving at, and the user interface and functionality is a core driver in everything that we do. So very, very critical to get that right when you're building an XR application. And of course, this is collaborative, so you can be in the same room working together, or you could be, on the other side of the planet. All you really need is an internet connection. And during COVID, this was extremely important because there's lockdowns and yeah, everyone was kind of remote. There's still a lot of people remote, but a lot of people also use it in person now as well. But I think it was really cool because a lot of people like to get inside their molecule and share things. And during the early days of the pandemic, there were proteins coming out every week. Here's the main protease. Here's the new spike with the mutations on it. So there was this need for this rapid turnaround of understanding molecules and making actionable insights. So that was actually a really, really cool period. We still help out with many, many areas, but all the COVID stuff was pretty much completely open and transparent. So a lot of the publications we're able to share are still on the COVID molecules that we helped out with. A lot of the other things are kind of privately locked behind IP firewalls at different companies. But the idea of connecting humans with computers more effectively, allowing them to make things like small molecules, utilizing cloud simulations, resources, working with their team around the world, all of that enables more discoveries and more molecular breakthroughs that eventually translate to the clinic and translate to patient care, and ideally, help save lives or at least improve patient outcomes. So computational tools, like I kind of mentioned earlier with that Fortran like command line interface with some green graphics, it's coming a long way. So you can see in this one, you're kind of building the molecule out atom by atom, and it's automatically calculating chemical properties and giving you the 2D snapshot there, which could be really fun when you want to optimize for different molecular properties like Lipinski's rules of five, or other methodologies that you might ascribe to as a medicinal chemist. Everyone kind of has their own way of doing things. There are definitely some commonalities, but yeah, I'd say no two medicinal chemists I've met are exactly the same. But it's not just medicinal chemists, that would be designing new small molecules, like a new drug that would go into a pill. It's also people working on proteins, so biologics. You're looking at protein-protein interfaces, electrostatic potentials. You're looking at mutations, maybe in antibody-antigen type of interaction. You're looking at all the bonds that form, where the hydrogen bonds happening, which residues could we mutate to maybe get some more key interactions that it picks up. Or maybe you're looking at the other side and saying, oh, what if COVID mutates in this way? Will it become, ineffective against this or more effective at infecting cells? So there's a lot of information you can really glean from the molecular data, and we like to highlight all of that. This next one, I'm just going to play it for a little bit. This is actually a video that we made with one of Darren's former grad students. So this is a friend of mine from Nanoengineering, is a few years younger, that was an intern with us for a bit. And what you can see here is a metal organic framework structure, I believe. So he was working on ways to capture some forever chemicals with these, uh, three-dimensional metal organic frameworks that you could see there. And yeah, I think metal organic frameworks, when you look at it in 2D, it's really complex and hard to like figure it out. But when it's in VR, it becomes immediately obvious. So when you're looking at really simple things like maybe just I don't know, sodium chloride like crystal structure, VR is cool. VR is cool, definitely. But when you're dealing with more complex molecules, especially proteins or even complex molecules like MOFs, VR is critical for understanding it. You just get so much more information, so much more insights, and so much more intuition. And I think that that was one of the things that was a reoccurring theme when I was going through the nano engineering program because we were one of the first, well, really the first class of freshmen that came in that ended up going through the program. And it was constantly this idea of like intuition for the nanoscale. Like, and I feel like most people today, even within the sciences, don't have a great intuition. Like you could ask, what's bigger, an alpha helix on a protein or a DNA double helix? And if you look at them in VR, it's like pretty obvious. That DNA is huge and that little alpha helix is pretty small. And maybe you could intuit from, just having like two strands and the way that they're all, bonding together with hydrogen bonding just makes them take up more space versus more of a little spiral of amino acids. But when you just grab them in VR, it's something that is intuitive. And that's not something that you typically get for things at the nanoscale. It's a very unintuitive scale, especially when you look at interactions. Life at a low Reynolds number is actually very viscous compared to how life would normally be. So we can't have a complete one-to-one simulation of the nanoscale, but we do try to implement all the latest and greatest computational techniques to try to get us further in that direction. So yeah, that's just this video is great. We have a bunch of videos on our YouTube channel. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but feel free to watch it on your own after this one. So yeah, we like to say that top research and development labs are already making billion-dollar decisions with our software. Here's a really great quote from Novartis, where we were able to save them over 2 months of time. They shared this on a public webinar that we had with them. So 2 months may not seem like a lot, but it was actually out of a 6-month validation process that they have. So if you repeat that, these things add up over time. And when you talk about time in drug discovery, if you want to get to the market sooner, if you wait too long, there's going to be other drugs, other competitors out there. Uh, First in class and best in class would be ideal, but if you could get the first mover advantage, that's fantastic. But how do you get the best in class drugs? The things that work the best. Well, I think this quote from Oak Ridge National Laboratory is great. They were able to come up with new ideas by simply looking at things in virtual reality that they never would have come up with before. We actually have a whole case study and publication with Andre from Oak Ridge on that. And then this one from Roivant, I think I hear this a lot with educational users as well that are using this for teaching their grad students or even undergrad or high schoolers as well. But you're able to convey in a matter of seconds what would normally be extremely hard and could take days, weeks, hours, or maybe it's just, the student that gets a C minus and never really completely gets it all the way. Um, and so if you could have this one impactful session, or ideally, many of these impactful sessions, whether it's in teaching or in industry, you're able to share information across many people, and everyone gets on the same page. When you're pointing at things on a Zoom screen or a chalkboard or whatever thing you're trying to share, really you're losing loads of information. So if a picture's worth 1,000 words, a video is worth 1,000 pictures, VR is worth 1,000 videos. It's just the next level of interaction there. Zoran's actually a fantastic user of ours from the UC San Diego Sky School of Pharmacy. He's one of those people that has been trying to have 3D and VR since like the 80s, 90s. He's always wanted this. His whole lab was filled. You can see on his desk these different 3D glasses that he's had over the years because he's always wanted to get hands-on with molecules and have them in 3D right in front of him. And now with our software and of course the modern VR headsets and mixed reality headsets, he's able to do all this. So yeah, he definitely echoes a lot of the other sentiments I just showed. Instantaneous understanding, orders of magnitude quicker than minutes. You get a completely new perspective. So much space inside this binding pocket I didn't notice before. So all these things add up to end up driving more scientific breakthroughs and innovation. So to talk a little bit more about some of our academic publications, this is University of Rochester here. This was our first publication that we did with Novartis in 2017, 2018 type of era. I guess it was published in 2019. This was after basically a 2-year collaboration that we had where we would get feedback from the computational chemists, medicinal chemists, and structural biologists at Novartis, the GNF San Diego site, that are trying to develop new drugs. And they were really instrumental in helping guide us because I didn't have too much experience in industry, pharmaceutical drug discovery. I was coming at this from my own approach of wanting to be a better nano engineer. And they were able to really help give us great feedback on ways to make it more relevant for them so that them and others like them could benefit from this technology. So yeah, really great paper. Laura Kingsley et al. Glenn Spraggin, really great structural biologist. It's fantastic working with that team. But yeah, since then I mentioned a few of the COVID publications that we've had. We've had a lot of publications and a lot more publications reference us. And this is across the board. Some of this is COVID research. Some of this is talking about Nanome in the context of education and teaching with VR. There's a really fantastic paper from Harvard where their chemistry librarians were helping teach I think, still helping teach different courses for their chemistry students. Really getting hundreds of students in there, and all the reviews were very high in terms of how it impacted all the students' learning and understanding. So it's kind of obvious. If you have 3D things, you put into 3D interface, people get it better. But there's a lot of data also validating that as well. And to touch more on the COVID, it was such an interesting time period when the world just kind of locked down and everyone in the scientific community started really focusing on this. So we got to work with CSIRO, Data 61. It's kind of Australia's big national research laboratory, and they were literally over the weekend. Getting a structure on a Friday, talking about the latest mutations, doing MD analysis, and having their friends join in on a Saturday, Sunday, and then on Monday having a report for the Prime Minister to talk about how infectious the new strain was most likely to be based on like a cleavage site or other types of analytics. And so we were there. We were helping people to better address the pandemic. And of course, some of the molecules like the ones from in silico medicine are still going through clinical trials and trying to become real drugs that could help people even today that might still be catching COVID. And there was actually a really big program in Italy called Escalate for Cove, using exascale computing in order to run simulations. And then, of course, using VR as an interface to understand that. If you're spending millions and millions of dollars to simulate things, you definitely want to invest in the people to be able to understand and take action with that data. This video, I'll just play it for like a second here, but I would recommend going to the YouTube link at the bottom when you have time after this. It's really just a bunch of our users and different people we've been able to work with that are talking about how much value that they get from using virtual reality and mixed reality. So again, it's about 8 minutes and covers a lot of people and different sound clips from webinars and other pieces of media that we have. Definitely couldn't be here today without having an amazing team. So would like to give a shout out to my co-founders, Kata and Edgardo, both DC San Diego graduates. I was more the nano engineer. Kata was more the business econ, but also had some design and artistic film media skills as well, which is very helpful to wear a lot of hats in a startup. And Edgardo from the cognitive science human computer interaction angle has actually been really great with helping our customers directly. And an interesting addition was Xavier, who had done a similar type of work during his PhD in France on an academic VR molecule thing called UnityMol. But when he finished his PhD and was looking for ways to continue doing a similar thing in industry, he sought us out and has been a really great team member to add to the team. So we pretty much are like the dominant commercial player. There's a few academic projects that are kind of doing a few things, but we've been able to really collect the talent pool and keep building up the product as something that's very functional and usable. Unfortunately, a lot of these academic projects that I see fail to become a product, which is its own startup journey. I'm happy to kind of share of, going from like academic projects and publishing papers versus real world products that people purchase and use for real world applications. I definitely like being on the latter side, as you can tell by me being the startup guy, right? This is a kind of outdated publication, but the trend has held true, actually. If anything, it's gone completely exponential off the charts because of all the AlphaFold predicted structures out there. This is the PDB statistics for all the new structures that have been deposited onto the protein data bank hosted by Rutgers and UCSD. And yeah, so sorry, it's only from 2021. I kind of had these slides available and it was just easier to show. But yeah, since the invention of AlphaFold and other folding technologies, instead of 180,000 or so different structures, 200,000 I think now, there's actually millions of computationally predicted structures out there. So there's a deluge of these proteins that are just waiting to be tinkered with, explored, targeted, you name it. And so there's a lot of informatics crunch, but there's also a big 3D structural modeling approach that we're seeing a lot more people use it, and a lot of people are validating that experimentally as well, which is very cool to see. Yeah, just talk about some future trends that we're seeing in XR. Obviously we love industry adoption, more companies using it. We're seeing larger deployments with some of the big pharma companies that are trying to scale this, across entire sites. So like think about a city with a lab building or a few different buildings right there. That would be like a single site is like a campus, but then you have multiple of these for the big companies. And so trying to get this into a global deployment where many people use it around the world, working with each other has always been our goal. And we've been able to, achieve kind of early foundations of that. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of that in the future. XR and smart glasses. I love, mixed reality, virtual reality, XR, whatever you want to call it. These headsets are amazing, and I think everyone really, when it's, just a pair of glasses that somehow has some AR overlay, I think everyone will use it. The technology for that is unfortunately a bit complex, expensive, and hard to miniaturize. It's still a couple years off before everyone has AR smart glasses, but the foundations are being set to really set that up right now. And we've been able to work with these biotech pharmaceutical companies really beyond the early drug discovery, research, and development teams. And we've been able to work with people that are doing like toxicology, formulation, trying to predict stability of things, especially around large biomolecules. You want to work with yeah, molecules that you're able to make that are, going to be able to be given to a patient. So there's things beyond just does this work computationally? Does this work in a petri dish? You need to worry about the shelf stability and other aspects there. So all these teams all work together. And if you don't have them working together, what'll happen is one team will make something really cool. They'll kick it over the fence, and then 6 months later, they'll get it back saying, "Hey, this didn't work." So it's just this huge inefficient thing that we're trying to help solve by getting people to just work together and share that data earlier on, and help make those changes that they're going to have to make down the road. And of course, last, I am a nano engineer. I kind of miss my metals and materials structures I got to work with Ken. I'm all doing biotech pretty much right now. There's a little bit of traction that we have in industry and material sciences. Again, complex molecules, more like metal organic frameworks as opposed to very simple molecules or alloys and other things that have less molecular computation going on right now. But there's a pretty big area in material science research for trying to come up with new catalysts for reactions, trying to come up with things that complement and could absorb different molecules. So it's cool to see that there's still a thriving research development arm there in a lot of companies. Then, of course, agriculture tech, ag tech, is being some crop sciences, even food flavor, beverage design. Everything's really molecules at the end of the day. So it doesn't matter if your molecule is, curing your COVID, if it's just some tasty, delicious additive that gets put into your favorite beverage. Molecules are happening everywhere. And education. This is an area that we try to support as much as we can. We know universities don't really have a ton of money, so we don't really trying to pry out their checkbooks, but we make it available. They could purchase it online. Students could use it for free actually if they have their own headset. So there's a lot of cool applications that we're seeing people use our software for, and we want to just support them as best we can. And eventually we get into this world where we have molecules and we have AI helping you, and maybe you're not just designing traditional drugs, but you're integrating some, organic structures, inorganic structures, and some DNA origami. Yeah, the things that I was kind of promised as like really cool nano engineering future things. I'm not seeing a lot of that in industry. Unfortunately, still in academia, but a lot of it is pretty promising for potential future avenues that we might be seeing. So we're building this virtual lab of the future. If you're interested, feel free to shoot me an email, steve@nanome.ai. Definitely recommend you all to try this. It seems like you have a university facility where you could all get started with it. And yeah, just want to try to see how we could encourage the adoption and usage for you and other students, professors. As you go into industry, these are the tools that people in industry use. So it's actually pretty important to start getting familiar with what's out there and at least getting some exposure to it. And the coolest thing about actually getting any exposure to virtual reality, especially around molecules, is that you end up kind of getting it into your head. It's hard to create a three-dimensional image in your head that you've never seen before. And it's much easier to recreate that 3D thing in your head after you've already experienced it with a 3D interface like virtual reality. So, if you're having trouble looking at things in textbooks, computer screens, and kind of want to get more intuition for the nanoscale, check out Nano. So yeah, appreciate you inviting me today, Darren. Happy to answer some questions from the students or anyone else.
Thank you, Steve, for the really inspiring talk. Do we have questions from the audience? I'll start off. Steve, what kind of hardware is required to, say, run a like a lamp simulation or something?
So yeah, a lamp simulation, what I'd recommend is probably pre-calculating that and then just importing it onto the headset. There's been a few academic projects that have tried to do more like real-time molecular dynamics where they have a cloud server that's kind of recalculating the trajectories and then your controllers are like putting a force onto different parts of the molecule. Nobody really wants that in industry. I think it's a really great teaching and educational tool. But things like that is just like not how the real science is done. I'd say in industry that they're mostly, running a large simulation GPU cluster for several hours every days. And then playing that back, they might look at it in VMD a bit, but you could actually import those frames into Nanome, and then play them. So yeah, we don't focus so much on the computational, running computation. I guess with our AI program, you can actually have it, set up and run these calculations for you. But for virtual reality analysis, we could do this all in a standalone headset. And this is the Quest 3 that you can see here. It's really all run off the Qualcomm XR2 Snapdragon like cell phone chip. So there's only so much compute that you can do locally. So we've definitely been leaning into more cloud compute technologies to be able to interface with the end user through an API. So yeah, we could actually we do send some things off for a small calculation. Like if you are drawing a molecule and the way that we have it set up, if you draw the bond too long, it'll actually run an MD to get it down. But that's all done in the cloud and just passed down to the users on standalone headsets. Or if you wanted to do it locally, then you would actually need to be powered by a desktop. And then we have enough juice where we can do little calculations like that locally. But of course, yeah, the big proteins you want to do ahead of time.
Thanks.
I
Questions
have,
from, yes.
I have a question. Thanks so much, Steve. That was a really great talk, and I really appreciated hearing about your journey. And so you've built Nano from the ground up. What's a lesson you've learned as a founder that you wish you'd known when you were starting out?
Yeah, I wish I'd known. That last part's kind of throwing me off, but I'd say that I kind of knew it would be a grind going into it. But I was so dedicated to the idea of it that I was willing to go through the grind. And businesses are hard. You need to build great products, find customers, get the customers happy, you have a great team, get investors if you need capital. And so persistence, just I'd say having a good scope of just like how much persistence and perseverance it takes to be successful when starting up your own business. Yeah, really businesses fail because people give up. Yeah, obviously, if you don't have a product or if you don't have revenue for a number of time, you're kind of forced to give up because you might need to pay for bills and other things like that. But there's plenty of founders that I've been out there that aren't that interested in what they're doing. Like they kind of want to make money, and they see what they're doing as a way to hopefully do that. But I'd say without the passion, the probabilities of having a successful startup go down drastically, because every day is an opportunity to give up. If you want to throw in the towel, like there's nobody really stopping you. Like you could just stop doing it and move on with your life and do something else. And so yeah, definitely kind of had an idea for that, but yeah, maybe didn't understand the full scope of just how persistent you need to be in order to really grow something.
So if I may, thank you so much for coming and speaking. My name is Sue Cardinal. I'm a chemistry librarian here, and I'm good friends with Tina Helt, who
Oh,
is
yeah.
the librarian at Harvard. So I learned about Nanome from her poster at an ACS meeting and introduced it here. And I really think that it's a marvelous tool. I was one of those organic chemistry students that didn't visualize things well in my head. And I wished I had something like this when I was in organic chemistry. So I'm really encouraging the chemists to try it out. So that's a big lead up just to ask you, how are things going in other universities? How long does it take to convince the department to embrace it and incorporate it into their curriculum? And
Yeah, we've gone more or less hands off on things like that. It's a challenge, right? You got to get the hardware set up and purchase, and you need a facility for the hardware. I mean, other people do it with like standalone headsets that they kind of loan out to the students, give the students. I think that way might be easier for a lot of people when they have the students kind of managing the hardware updates and charging them and being responsible for that. Because then you need another person that's in charge of making sure all the hardware is up and running. And so for us to go into an institution that doesn't have any XR, we kind of need to like find the champions of people that really care about implementing this. Find the budget. It could be grant, it could be otherwise. And it's not the most productive use of our time. We try to work with universities as best we can, but we kind of need a champion already like approaching us. And that could be from people that learn about it from yeah, people like Tina, she's fantastic. Or maybe people like you, right? You're still kind of spreading this around. And then at that point, we're very willing to help them. Help them walk through the steps, provide the resources, the information, connect them with hardware vendors. We have great relations with Meta, HTC, Apple, really all the major players there. So we try to support as best we can. But yeah, really without that person driving it, there's no adoption. So at LSU, Simon Lee, he's been really hands-on with those supramolecular chemistry courses to teach the students because he knows that it's the best way that the students learn and retain it. So yeah, we see the need. I wish I had this in everyone actually Darren's class. It would have been great, kind of we're assembling like the little residues to build peptide chains and all that. Like it was very abstract, and I feel like having the VR intuition uh, takes away all the abstraction. It's still an abstraction that you have this ball and stick and these colors representing atoms and all this, but it's something that's 3D and intuitive and able to be understood. So yeah, I've actually talked with various people in the nanoengineering department trying to get them to like pick up on it just because it's from where I came from and I had a lot of personal desires to get this into my classes. But yeah, we don't actually have like a dedicated champion in the UCSD nanoengineering department that wants to make this happen for all the nanoengineering students. On the other side of campus in Sky School Pharmacy, we have Zoran, who's very proactive. He buys laptops, headsets. He teaches the structure-based drug design graduate classes, so he has smaller class sizes. But he's even had up to 20 students where he's just solo managing all the hardware, getting it all set up to get all the students in there. And I know how much work that is. I mean, I've had a lot of demos and sessions where we've had to set up all the hardware and make sure that everything's working for everyone. So yeah, there's no easy answer for any of this. I hope that as Apple's gotten into the game with their first gen device, hopefully the price comes down with that. Things are more intuitive, play better with firewalls. Getting around the Facebook.com Meta like firewall situation still actually happens because some universities have sort of banned these IP addresses and have to work with like IT folks and help white label it all for like they're paying us like $500 and so 500 bucks, yeah, can be a lot, but when there's like multi-billion dollar companies that have much bigger budgets and all that, it's like we kind of gotta choose our battles as a startup business and really lean into our go-to-market in industry while trying to support the academic usage as best we can.
I have another question, Steve. Could you program in intermolecular pair potentials to like your hands so you can feel electrostatic forces in the molecules?
Well, how would you feel it, Darren?
Ah, if only there were haptics researchers in your orbit.
Yeah, I mean, in principle, all these things are possible. I think it'd be cool. I think there's some famous stories I hear secondhand. I think I actually met the person that was part of this group, but Pfizer used to have this big robotic arm. And I guess what happened is, there was like a ligand and a binding pocket, and they went bloop right into the protein. And if you'll understand, like, even a basic Leonard-Jones potential, that out of the six, out of the 12, like, yeah, these are things where if you move a little bit, right, it just shoots up the force. So apparently she broke her arm, is the story. So yeah, I've heard, I don't know how true this is. Like I've kind of heard it from several people now, and they're like, I knew her, I knew the person. So yeah, I can't 100% confirm that, but things like this have been explored for a while, and I think they can be very intuitive. Hopefully with the finger-based touch sensors, there's not really much risk of having an actual incident occur. But yeah, definitely, mapping out the 3D positions of everything, with hand tracking is actually pretty doable. So you don't ever need, like tracking gloves. You could just have your hands with the different sensors on them. From that point, you would tell the system to do various things when the finger, overlays and touches something. Yeah, I'd say that that's like a definitely like a cool path for the future, but I think probably a fair ways off from seeing it implemented.
Fair enough.
People have been wanting like controller vibration and there's only so much nuance you get from that. We end up doing a lot more visual. So we actually have a scoring function where as you put the molecule into the binding pocket, you can see atoms get like bigger or greener for a positive interaction and like then smaller and then they become red and then like big and red for like, hey, this is just completely clashing and
Can
overlapping.
you calculate the binding energy?
There's a score, yeah. So
Okay.
it's kind of like the binding energy. It's just like this real-time scoring function that we implemented. So yeah, that one's pretty cool. We also have docking. So if you design something new, you want to computationally dock it and see its pose and calculate the scores off that. You could do that.
Okay. So there are some like computational results that you can that are kind of bake-inable into the, yeah, that's cool.
Definitely. Yeah, so we support, all the common file formats if you already have it from a different data source, PDB, SDF, MMSIF, multi-frame files. There's really a ton that we support on our website. But there's also a handful of calculations that are baked into our API. And so you could, do some things in VR, click some buttons, run a calculation, and then see the results. Actually, one of the cooler ones that we integrated recently was OpenEye's Orion tool that allows you to do a molecular similarity search. And so if you have a molecule in a binding pocket, you make some modifications, and then you want to see all the molecules that are available on like enamine or e molecules or these chemical suppliers that literally have warehouses of chemical building blocks that they could assemble in an even larger library of chemicals. So you pretty much have like billions of chemicals that you just hit a button and you can order these things. at your fingertips and get into testing without actually needing to synthesize anything. And so, just being able to get that like quick check of like, okay, out of these billion compounds, could I get like the top 100 most similar and then overlay them in the binding pocket and go through them and see which ones I want to actually purchase. So yeah, I thought that one was really cool. So yeah, there's a bunch of real time-ish. That one takes like 20 or 30 seconds once you hit the button. Real time enough that you could do in VR where you're not just waiting for 5 hours for your MD to calculate.
Cool.
Hi. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, first, thank you so much for walking us through your journey. It was pretty fun to get to know about that. I don't really have any question to ask coming from a non-chemistry background, so not really like scientific knowledge in terms of that. But overall, I have a few comments, something I felt during the talk. First was the idea. It's really fun because back in my high school, I didn't really know what VR is. But when I was going through like those high school chemistry books and biology books, I used to think about, when looking at those molecule pictures in the textbook, I used to think about like visualizing them in real life somehow possible way. So it's really fun to see that someone has actually made that possible. So that was really fun to see. And the other part was the startup aspect of it. Being someone who has an entrepreneurial mindset, I think it's pretty interesting to actually hear someone who has actually like built everything from scratch. That too, starting as a student, I think it's pretty impressive and even more motivating for people like us who really want to be like that. So I think in that way, I found it really motivational and really impressive in terms of your work. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I was right there with you. Yeah, I was thinking of ways to have this right in front of me, and yeah, now with these $300-400 headsets, you could actually have the mixed reality, which has the camera pass through, so you could literally just see the molecule on your desk on top of your textbook, exactly like you'd hope. So yeah, I'm glad that we're able to fulfill many people's dreams. And on the startup side, yeah, we well, I got the idea and kind of started, working on this in my garage when I was still a student, and very quickly realized that, this was too big of a thing to do by myself, and I needed a team, and I was a student at UCSD, so I was like, okay, what resources are available for students trying to start up a company? And so I, looked up all the programs and started talking with people and networking and going to networking events. And things like that were actually instrumental in helping, me develop a better semblance of what it meant to start up a company, as well as get connected to people that were genuinely useful and helpful to us. Helped introduce us to, advisors that got our foot in the door at some of the first pharma clients that we were able to meet. Advisors that helped connect us with angels and get some early capital. So there's a lot of work that still need to do to make all these things happen. But yeah, nothing is easy when you're doing it alone. Definitely recommend getting co-founders and really any other resources that you could get your hands on, whether that's university resources or other startup resources, especially if you're coming from zero. Just having these little bits of experience really add up.
Hey Steve, my name is Joe. I'm a librarian here in Studio X, and I've got a quick question. I gathered it from your presentation, but I just want to confirm. Uh, Looking forward, and as you think about the advancements in VR, XR, AR, what are you most excited about? And is there something that you're looking forward to implementing in Nano in the near future that you can share with us? Is it the lighter weight smart glasses, AR, VR smart glasses, or is it more AI integration, or is it something else?
Yeah, you actually hit it on the nail with the more AI integration. I do think the hardware is going to keep getting better, and I am excited every generation, whether that's a Quest 3, 3S right now, if they do a Quest 4, 5, 6, whatever the next thing is. Apple Vision 2, Apple Vision SE that's like way cheaper and affordable for all the universities to get glasses. Yeah, all that. Like count me in. Like sign me up. I've seen the last over decade of all the advancements and it's come a long way. And then the next decade presumably is going to keep getting much, much better. But within the locus smart control, AI integration, like everything's shifting to AI. And I think that as we have more and more things that the AI is producing, think about using the image generators. You want it to be a Studio Ghibli profile pic, or whatever prompt you have it. Well, there's molecular versions of that. We actually have a tool called MPNN, which is a protein neural network where you upload a sequence. And based on the knowledge that it has of all the protein sequences out there, it'll come up with new protein sequences for you that you could, of course, fold using OpenFold, ESM Fold, AlphaFold into three-dimensional protein structure. And same with molecule generation. There's machine learning tools out there that will design a new chemical for you. You say, hey, these chemicals that are in this binding pocket look good enough. Could you, maybe come up with some new designs that fit these multiple parameters of optimization that we're trying to go for, and it'll crunch numbers and get back to you. So the analysis of all that is critical because you're using these AI generative tools and you don't want it to just hallucinate a bunch of garbage. So you got to be the human in the loop that's parsing through the nuggets of gold or maybe modifying it and getting it over that hump of potential energy. You got stuck in a local minima with these algorithms, but you see some new piece of information that's able to kick it over into a global minima in terms of the scores or the calculations or what you're going for. So yeah, I love the Tony Stark Iron Man Jarvis thing. We've again had VR voice commands in the app where you could say select this, change that, and that's just going to keep getting more advanced. Where you could have like a full-on embodied avatar AI assistant running calculations in the cloud, giving you the results, talking about it, having a conversation about it, teaching you about it. AI is still kind of in this phase where it does make up things sometimes, so it might not be the best solo teacher, but can be a very great supplement to a more formal education process as well. So yeah, more AI integration. We actually have this big initiative where we've re-architected the core graphics framework that we have in Nanome to really be built for AI and API integrations from the ground up. And right now it's just Nanome version 2. Maybe we'll come up with a fancier name, but we're putting it all together with our AI. And so Nanome AI is the future where we have this re-architected platform. We got Mara is our version of Jarvis, just our assistant's name, molecular analysis and research assistant. Mara. So yeah, Mara is very helpful as a 2D web application right now. It's a multi-agent that uses a foundational LLM to figure out which tools it needs to use and then parses through the tools and databases and gives you the results. So yeah, baking that into the headset type environment is just going to be really awesome. And I think that's generally the future trend where you had Clippy, remember the paperclip and the Microsoft Word. So yeah, like what is a real useful version of Clippy? I think most applications are going to be moving in that direction. Hopefully better implementations. I think Clippy has a lot of negative memories for a lot of people as it's pretty useless. But now we have very useful AI technology, and I'm seeing it implemented really everywhere across the board. And of course, we're one of those players that's getting really into it and trying to add value to people by integrating these new technologies.
Thanks, Steve. Anybody else have any questions? I'm looking in the chat right now.
Yeah, so I popped a question in the chat, which is that I'm curious about the chemical reaction and mechanism space, and if there will be more simulations and connections with reaction databases.
It's something that we're always looking into. Yeah, I think that the Open Molecular Software Foundation, or oh no, Open Force Field, there's a few of them. So John Codera is a really great guy. I don't know if you met John Codera. He's at another university in New York, but yeah, smart guy, has several very big open source initiatives from like toxicology and ADMET prediction. Um, new force field calculations. So we're trying to integrate open source tools like that. We don't, develop our own algorithms for like chemical interactions, or different simulations. But when people, and especially in academia or these nonprofits, end up publishing a ton of open source tools that we could plug into with our API, or host them for our users to be able to access. Yeah, we do that. So if there's specific ones that you want, actually you could write us a request, hello@nanome.ai, and just ask. Chances are we'll probably be a bit busy with the tight team and probably won't integrate it, but there's some things we miss. And so sometimes just bringing that to our attention might be enough to get it prioritized if it is a really instrumental integration we could do.
Looks like Kathy posted something in the chat. Kathy, did you want to mention? Uh, oh, I see. She'd like to invite you to one of the Tech Up talks.
Yeah, that's just a comment that I'll connect with Steve. And sorry I didn't have my camera on today, but this was very interesting and growing the business and tech up for women. We're always interested in the latest technology. So we have a lot of sponsors in the pharmaceutical space. So we could I'll talk to Steve about that. Maybe we could do some joint presentation.
Yeah, it sounds
Thanks, Meg.
interesting. Yeah, you can share that. My direct email is just steve@nanome.ai. So yeah, feel
Great.
free to send over some more information. We could go from there.
Yep, I'm
Sure.
posting Steve's contact information in the chat along with the link to Nanome, his LinkedIn link. And then for those of you interested in attending some of our other speaker series, I've got a link to the schedule and all the other speakers that'll be part of the Voices of XR series coming up. Thank you so much, Steve. This has been fantastic.
Oh yeah, I'm glad to be a part of this. How's the rest of the series been? A lot of cool XR speakers.
You're the first one of this season.
I was just okay. Yeah, I saw there were a few other after me. Well,
We're,
that's
you,
fantastic. Yeah,
we're starting off strong.
I appreciate that you're going out of your way to really do this and help engage with the students and really show them that these things are like real outside of just being used for education and little one-offs, and that there's real world change that you could see happening with this technology. So yeah, great job. Keep getting into the hands of the students. I think you're doing the right thing.
Meg knows I'm always helping her look for people that have real businesses, not just esoteric. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, thanks. Joseph, are you talking?
Yeah, thanks again, Steve. I just want to let everyone know the recording of this will be posted on our website fairly soon. So if you'd like to share this with someone, you can direct them there so they can see the full recording.
Thanks, Steve.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks again for having me.
Bye, everyone.